You're welcome to African Fathers in Diaspora. There is no other place to have an exclusive interview like this than to have it at the home church for Daddy Pastor Dr. Zacch Olorunnipa. Daddy is one of my mentors, and I'm so excited to grow under him. Not just that he's my mentor, he's also my father, he's also my grandfather, and I've watched him uh, impact people's life, especially youth. And I want to congratulate you, Daddy. You have 6 grandchildren, and there is no other room to have such an exclusive interview than the children's um, room in your church, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Kogi Chapel at Tallahassee. This is the church where Pastor Zacch is the lead pastor in this church. Well, we're so excited for what God is doing in this ministry and in this community. Daddy, you want to tell us, you are a grandfather and you are also a father. Tell us how is that experience like moving from part of Africa to the US and raising successful children. Now they're beginning to raise their own children. Can you tell us how you were able to navigate that process?
Oh, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I want to commend your thoughts and efforts in this area, because fatherhood is an important aspect of everybody's life. In my own case, as you rightly said, I originated from Africa. I came from Africa, and fatherhood system in Africa, in Nigeria, especially during the time I was growing up, is very different from what it is over here. But God has helped me, to make a good transition in taking care of my children, even in this system that things are slightly different from Africa. So the major source of my help thus far has been from God. Without God, the Bible says nothing is possible. But with His help, you know, and the wisdom that I needed, I thought I would need, I asked God. God, this is a new thing to me. I've never had any children, starting from the first one you gave me. Even before they came, we were praying together with my wife. We were praying about raising them in godly way. So I made that a priority. I discipline myself and then try to encourage, my children when they started coming, that there is no better way than handling things in godly way. So God has helped us. So I study the system here, and I say by God's grace, I'm not going to expose these children to anything ungodly, or I'm not going to permit that in our family. And God has been faithful. So, like you said, it has not been easy, but God has helped us. So I thank God so far. God granted me I believe God granted me my heart's desire, so that, the way I wanted my family to go, the way of the Lord with God as our backbone. Everybody bought into it, among, beginning with my wife, and then, and I must say, I commend her so much in that area, because without her assistance, it would not have been possible. But God has been our help. We seek wisdom from Him, and anything we believe, He gives us, relating to these children, we let them know. Sometimes it's not easy. Children are always children, but once what is good for them, whatever it's going to take to get them, adopted, we did it. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned the place of God, and I'm just curious. I mean, I can hear background noise. assuming that it's one of the children in this ministry making the noise after the service. I have a young child of my own as well. Can you tell us what your experience was like when you first have your first child? I believe that must be something new to you as a father, now a grandfather for that matter. So tell us about that first experience as a father.
Very good question. Um, well, the first child we had was, it's a girl. She was born, as a girl, and still a girl, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And okay, we were very thankful to God that we had, her. So she became a gem or a precious, a gift from the Lord. So we did, with very meager salary in those days, we did our best to make sure that we made her comfortable. Let's see, but children are always children. Just like I said, you have to inculcate discipline, godly discipline to them. When I say no, I let them know it is no. If they are begging for me to change it, like if let's say I don't want you to drink, just as an example, Coke. There is no amount of begging. You can tell me that I will let you drink it, but and we will take time to explain to them why we are saying no, and that's important in raising children. If you don't want them to do anything, explain to them the reason.
The raising.
Uh-huh. If you want them to do something, also let them know the reason, the advantage of doing it. Uh-huh. So we took time to explain those things to them, and we love Funmi very well. We like I said, we had very limited resources, so we couldn't do all our heart's desire for her. But you see, understood, and it turned out very good.
So from history and from what we know about African fathers,
Yeah.
especially the way they their parents brought them up, you were talking about how precious your daughter is to you. What was your impression? What made you to embrace that female figure, knowing that in African home, in those days, usually when you have a female child is more of okay, you until you have a male child, your inheritance is gonna go into waste. You always want to have that male figure in the house. What was that like for you, still embracing a female child? And I think even our viewers will like to know what really made you to accept her, even though she's a daughter.
Oh, very good question. Um, Again, it's a God factor. I think played a major role, um, because the Bible says children are the heritage of the Lord. It didn't say boy is a heritage and girls are not, or vice versa. So when she was born, to be honest with you, my desire was, let this baby be a boy. you know, but and we had no means of going to test in those days. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that when she was born, we just saw her as a gift from the Lord. The emphasis was not on her
Gender.
gender at all. So, and we did our best to treat her that way and bring her up that way. And personally, even when I got exposed to the Western world, I've always, you know, have an issue within me, although I couldn't do anything with it any seriously. Why our quote unquote females were not, you know, giving in my own estimation, the respect they needed in our culture in those days. I think things are changing over the years. But because I always, well, as I grew up to know now that there's a lot of treasures in the females, but some of these treasures you have to dig them out. You have to encourage them. Uh-huh. So I personally, I believe that's one of the things that is affecting our economy in Nigeria, because we have not utilized the female resources. We have not optimized the advantage, the blessing, what they can do, and so on. The encouragement they needed to do it. That's my own personal view, and it got more transparent to me. I understand it more in that sense when I came to this system and I saw, how they were utilizing the female assets or persons here. When I first came to America, and I saw some offices with with so I said, oh, okay, yeah, one day Nigeria will get there. Yeah. In those days, you can hardly, I don't know the situation now in Nigeria. Um, at least before I left there, I never saw any female driving a taxi.
Oh.
That's before I left. Oh, I don't know the situation. But here, when I when I got here, I saw some female would drive taxis and do some other things that in our own system we thought only men should do this.
Oh wow, that's very interesting, and thank you for sharing that with us. You mentioned about discipline. You're from Nigeria, western part of Africa. Can you tell us how a discipline is defined back in Nigeria in this case,
Okay.
and how were you able to enforce discipline coming to the Western world, understanding the definition of discipline, your children here? So how are you able to do that? I'm sure other African fathers will want to learn. Being an African myself and a Nigerian myself, I understand my parents when the discipline is really you might not even be able to contain the discipline if it's commensurate to the offense. But I just want you to let our viewers, including myself, learn from you. What is discipline coming from part of Africa to the Western world? Tell us about what discipline is.
That's another good question. Discipline is there is not, if it's well handled, it's not a bad thing. There's a tendency in children, sometimes, I mean, and I believe it's based on how much they know, to do things that you may not want them to know. To do. There's that tendency will always be there. But the onus is on us as their parents to correct them and say, this thing that you want to do is wrong, or if you want to do, it's not the right thing for you to do. If you have already done it, we need to chastise them and point out, just like I said before, that it was wrong to do it. But where I think some people get it wrong is, not discipline must not always involve the use of the rod, to beat a child. No, I would not recommend that, and I didn't do that too much. I can't tell you. I'll be lying if I tell you I never beat any of my children. No, but in fact, the other day I was asking them if I beat them.
That's interesting.
Yeah. When they have grown out, I said, "Did I ever beat you?" as far as I remember, I think only one of them said yes. But I can't even remember yeah. But I apply discipline in some cases to maybe deny them of something they like to do. But I would have made it a condition that, okay, if you don't do this, like you want me to take you to your game at 4 p.m. Okay, for that to happen, you have to wash these dishes.
Okay.
You have clean your room. Do this, do that. Okay, that's one way I apply discipline, or deny them television, for example. Aha. In our house in those days, uh, my wife and I, and we agree among ourselves. That's another area. You must have an agreement with your spouse. The way you want to bring these children up. The do's and don'ts in the family. So I told my wife that if we want these children to be serious about their study, we must put control on their TV, how much TV they watched. So when in those days when I took the cable and I tried to hide it somewhere in the house, these children are very smart. They will trace it, and they will find it, and then before I came back, they have hooked the TV off, and they are watching. So it got to a point that when I was going to school, I would remove the cable and take and take that along with me. That means no TV in the house until I was back to the house.
Oh, wow.
So the issue of discipline, I say, okay, you like some program. I say, okay, if you do what I tell you to do, then we might. Yeah, exactly. And whenever we are watching TV, especially my wife, she was always there with them. As much as possible, we didn't let them just watch TV on their own. And while watching those programs, we try to point out the positive things and let them focus more on the positive things, in those that we see on the TV. If there is any negative thing they have seen, we'll find a way to counter it and say, oh, that picture of the person you saw there, they are taking that person into the prison, with chain in their hand, the police. It's not you. That does not define you. If that person didn't do something, they would not have put chain in his hand and they are taking him to the prison. So those kind of things are some of the seeds we try to sow in their life. And I think it worked. It worked. It helped a lot.
I'm sure we're learning a lot from our daddy, and I really want to appreciate you sharing the details of how you discipline your children. No, it's not a surprise to us now that they are successful there where they are now by the grace of God. I want to shift back to you.
Okay.
Tell us about your father, because usually this is one of the things we don't hear may figure, especially people from African descent talk about. And we will be very grateful if you can share to us about your experience with your father, because I think our viewers, including myself, we benefit a lot. What was that relationship like?
Okay. Thank you for asking that question. Um, I happen to come from a polygamous family. So what I'm going to say now may not be the case for every, father or situation or family. My father had 4 wives, of which my mom was the most senior, was the first one. And of course, plenty of children.
How many?
Oh my God. I lost count, but at least, yeah. My father has at least 22 children.
Wow.
By my last counting. But my father was very industrious and very hardworking. He also happened to be the village chief, of our little village then, and he was very hardworking. of course, the only work was farming in those days. And he generally, you know, once you did what daddy wanted in those days, what you'll be getting from him actually is praises. Yeah. But if you go the other way, you didn't do. Yeah, okay. He he disciplined. Occasionally, he will beat some of some of us. I don't remember my dad ever beating me particularly, but some other. I have some more stubborn brothers in those days. So those ones, might the the Bible say when you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Okay. So I think my dad operated on that principle a lot. He did not want to spoil, to spare, yeah, he didn't want. If you made a mistake, if you do something wrong, you go against what he said, he will let you know that that's not a good idea. And the way he, he passed that message around sometimes was by rod, so, but he used it, you know, not to harm, it's mainly to point out that, oh, that's what you did was wrong. So, in my own case, I thank God, you know, how I'm not praising myself, but God just put in me. I don't think I even deserve it. God put in me the spirit of obedience and respecting elders. So, as a result of that, I think I became a favorite of my dad. Yeah. And that helped a lot. And I try my best to satisfy him. I think my dad found out that if he sent two people in our family to go and do the same thing for him, I think he realized that in most cases I did my own to the level that to satisfy him the way he described it. Sometimes I even exceeded that way to his satisfaction. So because of that, I think he kind of gave me what special treatment. So I love my dad. He loved me. He. I will tell you one thing here. I love my mom too.
Oh, well, that's a good.
I love my mom. My mom loved me so much, and so it looks like my dad was jealous of how much time that I spent with my mom.
Wow.
When we came back from farm, in those days, of course, we go to the farm in the morning, all day we are in the farm, and then we come back, in the evening. So any little time I have in the evening after we have returned from the farm, I want to be with my mom.
With your mom.
Yeah, but my dad, sometimes I will just get to my mom's place, maybe after 5 minutes. My dad is already calling me.
Oh.
Sometimes he will call me
Wow.
to come and run an errand, or he just missed me that I was not there, and he will call me.
Wow.
So I always jokingly say, "Oh, my daddy was jealous of my mom.
So,
He doesn't want me to be with my mom."
wow, imagine even those times.
Hmm?
Well, I want to commend your dad in absentia, and he has done a wonderful job. You are an exemplary father, and you've raised exemplary children. I believe that is passed from generation to generation, so it's not a surprise to us to have you also with us. But I want you to tell us or tell the audience if there is anything you would like to say to him. We know he's no longer alive, but if there's anything you would like to say to him, please go ahead and say it.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I say something to my father, let me just quickly point out that um, I was it wasn't my father alone that raised me. You know, I happened to be quote unquote I was adopted. Adoption is not the right word in this case, but I will explain to you what happened.
Okay.
Um, there is a man that came from another village to visit our village because he was looking for a wife.
Oh.
I don't know the background of but the main thing he came that time was to find somebody to marry in our village. Maybe they already know the person. I don't know the background. Anyway, where I'm going is that this man, when the first time he came, he stayed in my daddy's home.
Oh.
Uh-huh. And for some reason, he had a desire to have a child. We were made later on. We were made to understand that he has been looking for a child. He had, I think, he had one wife before them, but no children. So, anyway, so I'm just cutting the story short.
It's okay.
He now requested my dad to let him have one of his children.
Wow.
Why? Because in his village, he said every year he pays tax towards maintaining school and all those things.
Wow.
But it was just to him he was just paying tax, but no benefit coming in because he has no child to put in the school.
Oh. Wow.
So, and then just to make the story short, it now turned now that I was the one that my dad released to him.
Wow. Wow.
So I spent about 6 to 7 years with the yeah, that's where I did my secondary school.
Oh.
Yeah. And then throughout the time, he put me in the secondary school. In those days, I don't think we were not paying for secondary school, but he was just happy that now,
Yeah, someone.
yeah. So he also influenced my life
Your life.
a lot. Yeah. But talking about my dad, Daddy, if I have an opportunity to express my appreciation to you, I don't have enough words to describe, how glad I am for the way you raised me up. You taught me wisdom. It was from you I learned, that hard work pays. Work. Actually, my dad, one of the names he gave me is Isenewa in our own dialect. It means work brings wealth. Uh-huh. And my dad was very hardworking and very enterprising. I learned a lot from you, Daddy. You're a man of wisdom. Um, you're a man of. He likes to gather people together, and very, very. My dad was very, very diligent in whatever he's doing. If Daddy described to you, do this, and he will give an example of how to do it. Yeah, he wants you to do it exactly like that. So I learned from him in so many ways. So, Daddy, I appreciate you for all your sacrifices, for your love for me, and today I thank God that your efforts were not in vain, and I'm trying my best to pass on that legacy, of excellence and hard work. To I'm trying to pass it on to not only my biological children, but to also my spiritual children. And this man is is a good example of is one of those people. So thank you, Daddy, and God will continue to bless all your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you for spending your time with us. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers would like to have you back in this African Fathers in Diaspora exclusive interview. And we thank you so much for how you're raising the next generation, even though you're living far away from home. But we know that your effort in passing on the legacy of your father will not be in vain. And that is also my desire and prayer for you, that as you continue to live in this land, you will continue to embrace what is important. You will learn from the fathers of the past and begin to appropriate this wealth of knowledge to your life. Again, thank you for joining
Thank
us
you.
into this episode, Daddy, and